Come on, come on. This is the NFL Brekkie Show. He is Laurie Horesh. I am Phil Murphy. Laws, we are through 15 weeks of the NFL season. We have 3 regular season weeks remaining, and it's crazy. In the AFC, if the Chargers win, I think if the Chargers beat the Broncos and 2 of the 3 6 and 8 teams lose, we could have the entire playoff field set in the AFC. We don't know what order with 2 weeks remaining. So you and I, as is annual tradition, we are, I guess, extending the invitation to the Super Bowl party here on the People Show, the NFL Brekkie Show. Please participate in the comments. However you are consuming this, we will get to a few of those questions, comments, complaints, concerns. But Laz, we're sending invitations to the Super Bowl Club. And we're doing a little differently than in years past in that you and I each have 5 invitations to hand out. And we are responsible for the behavior, the success of those we invite. Since it says Super Bowl 59, Roman numerals, we're welcoming everybody to Club LIX, LIX.
Yeah, let's just be careful with that one today. We're a Disney show. SB LIX, Super Bowl LIX is going to be an interesting one. The SB does not stand for friend and colleague Sam Bruce. Super Bowl that's happening in New Orleans in a couple of months' time. Look, I'm sitting here doing different, miming work and hand gestures about writing in comments and participating in the show. But this is an activity where let's lay it out. Let's be straight with it. Let's keep it completely real. This is where I get my revenge back. You have absolutely battered me from pillar to post in popular demand so far this season.
Tradition unlike any other.
And seasons prior as well. But the Super Bowl champion draft has been my domain. I am undefeated in the Super Bowl champion draft. I cannot.
You've had a couple front row lockouts, as they call it in the F1 world. There have been a couple of years that you had both participants.
It's just been me at the Super Bowl party, just deciding whether I was going to win over here or I was going to win over here. Either way, I was leaving a champion. So this is where I get it back. This is where, perhaps my week-to-week intricacies and narrative streets getting caught up in popular demand hasn't played out. But what has played out is my ability to pick the winner as we sit here and judge the ability to make a run, whether that's a dark horse, whether that's a front runner, whether it's a front runner. It's got too many empty calories going on there, says someone who had a couple of dumplings for dinner last night while we're talking about empty calories. And this is, where we can decide who belongs in the Super Bowl party, who belongs in Club SB LIX, who gets through the red velvet door, and who we're welcoming in as part of our crew, and hoping they're not going to be too big a liability. Sorry?
You said red velvet door?
Red velvet rope into the door. Sorry. It's been a while since I went.
I don't know how you guys do clubs there.
It's been a while since I actually bothered to pay a cover charge and line up to get in anywhere, Phil. I was reminiscing about this the other day. A long time since the clubs like Dragonfly and Havana in Sydney's inner city were frequented by me and my rapscallion friends.
Well, as we do in a draft, it's kind of hard, right? Because typically, worst record gets a draft pick. Historically, my record's been poor in the Super Bowl champions draft. Credit to you selecting the teams. We have this month or so left in the season, but I am almost 10 units ahead in popular demand. So we're running away with it. I am going to pull up a coin flip app.
Yes.
Coin flip generator. That's what we need. That's what I've been searching for. Flip a coin.
Yep. You can call it in the air this time because I called it last time successfully. I want to put fate in your hands.
Okay.
See how much the coins love you.
So it is tails. And I will flip it. And I will call tails. It's heads. Laurie Horesh, pick first.
Okay, let's get this out of the way. The real draft starts at number 2 after the performance yesterday from the Buffalo Bills and the injuries now mounting for the Detroit Lions. For me, this is a simple task here. No, they may not wrestle away the top seed from the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC, even with Patrick Mahomes and his ankle. Not so bad, not as bad as we might have thought. Maybe he'll play this weekend, maybe not, with the advantage they have there on the win-loss column, not the tiebreaker ahead. So what are they, 1.5 games, as they put it professionally, Phil? 1.5 game lead. But yeah, this is the Buffalo Bills from me. I rewatched the game this morning just because I wanted to feel, even more alive after my cold shower and knowing the Brekkie Show was on, knowing I was going to have a big day ahead, knowing that, little family time's coming up over the holidays as well. I was in a good mood, and I thought, what better way than to watch 1,100 yards and 900 points of offense just one more time. And I mean, what we saw, credit to the Detroit Lions, because there was some fantastic stuff there. Yes, there was a trick play to the likes of Dan Skipper. There was the 3rd and 17 conversion to Amon-Ra St. Brown that went for the long touchdown, where I don't know how he fit the ball in there, Jared Goff. There was some great sideline passes. There was so much to like there. But from the Buffalo Bills, the designs, the eye candy, the sound football dressed up with modern motions and orbit fakes and all that. It was an absolute delight to watch. Josh Allen has gone, anytime you can have another MVP contender in Lamar Jackson put up a Michelle Pfeiffer, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, 60-odd yards on the ground as well in a very, very dominant victory, and make no ground on the MVP race because Josh has got 4 total touchdowns in a contender versus contender and what many people think may be a Super Bowl preview matchup. Look, the Bills put it down there defensively. Okay, they gave up 42 points. There's some, there's a late junk time touchdown there, but you did see the difference. You saw a more impactful and obviously a healthier pass rush for the Buffalo Bills and getting to Jared Goff into some key spots there. No, this isn't a team built like the Legion of Boom, or take any pick of your cliched Ravens, Bears, Steelers defenses of the past, but the level of football that Josh Allen is playing, the rhythm that they find with the likes of Khalil Shakir, the running backs, who do you want? We know about James Cook, got Ty Johnston back there. Ray Davis has his moments, gets into the end zone. The power game, Dawson Knox taking one-handers out there, putting, Dalton Kincaid well and truly in the backseat in the tight end room. Keon Coleman having his moments. I mean, they didn't, there's other big names on this receiver corps not even making the big contributions right now, like your Amari Coopers of the world. So, yeah, this is Bills for one. For me, that's probably longer than I needed to spend on it. But given the performance we just saw, I thought I'd wax lyrical for a minute. Easy pick. Now the draft starts at pick 2.
Laz, putting it out there, I could not say this. I could just go with my picks 2 and 3 and be content. Had I won the toss, I think I would have deferred, because I think you would have taken the Bills at 1. And I understand they've looked terrific. I mean, even in a loss, the Rams had to put up 44 points to beat them. That's my concern for Buffalo, is the defense. And had I been forced into the number 1 pick, I would not have taken the Bills for that reason. I have defensive concerns for them, and it's why they've lost 3 games. That said, first pick, first invitation to Club LIX. Whew. Laz, this is how we do it. I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles. I've been critical of this team at 2 and 2. There have been concerns about the passing game for much of the year. What I saw from them in the second half against a Pittsburgh team that is well coached, I'll say better coached than the Eagles. Nick Sirianni has saved his job probably over the last 6, 7, 8, 10 weeks, whatever the winning streak is up to. What I saw from the Eagles, the ability to get yards after contact. I mean, Saquon's great at that, but this is a physical team. Best offensive line, them in Detroit. I'll hear the debate, but the size that Philadelphia presents, starting at Jordan Mailata, but just work your way across. A menacing size, getting downhill, 120 rush yards after contact. But what makes me believe in this team, the performance of their young corners, the secondary, who have shown some lockdown ability, terrific interior defensive line with Carter, well-coached defense, and now with Jalen Hurts, 311 yards against a Steelers defense that doesn't give up yards easily, and Hurts' comfort in the pocket. 23 of 27 inside the pocket, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Laz, the Achilles heel, and then some of this team last year was Hurts handling the blitz. Well, this year, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception for the season against the blitz. You just can't send numbers at him. He's matured as a quarterback, and there's this kind of quarterback adage for these young players. He figures out the league, or the league figures him out. And with Hurts, that kind of swung, the pendulum swung from he's figured out the league, 3 rushing touchdowns in the Super Bowl, to last year, he can't handle the blitz. And now he has spent time, he and Kellen Moore, figuring out how to, when pressure comes, knowing where his reads are, the ultimate outlet in Saquon Barkley looking the part. Philly is where we thought they would be in the season, in the beginning of the season. And now, perfect imperfection in the last 10 weeks. Not every game's going to blow you away. But when they get the ball at their own 3-yard line against the Steelers, up 2 touchdowns with 10 and a half minutes left, and they run out the clock over 21 plays. That makes a statement to me. And that tells me, because of the injuries in Detroit, and we'll talk about Detroit coming up. Listen, if Detroit's defense were healthy, I would be picking them here because their offensive ceiling is so high. My concern with Detroit is we have 53 players on an active roster. So you have a kicker, punter, long snapper, 50, 25 and 25, give or take, offense and defense. They have 13 players out injured defensively. And that's not 13 random. That's the 13 best. Their top 4 edge rushers, their top 4 interior defensive linemen, 6 linebackers. They just lost Carlton Davis for the year, Aleem McNeil. Dan Campbell saying all the right things. Opportunity for somebody else to step up. But at some point, they're too defensively lean. I don't know that Philadelphia will catch the Lions because they would need Detroit to lose, though Detroit does still have to play at San Francisco in 2 weeks, a team that has talent and will be playing with no pressure. They have to play the Vikings, who seem to be getting hot at the right time. I'm worried that if the Vikings beat the Lions are the 5 seed and Philly's the 1, and all roads to the Super Bowl would then go through Philly, a team that hasn't had to get on a plane for the last 6 weeks of the season. 4 home games and a bus trip to DC, bus trip to Baltimore. They're getting healthy at the right time. They're playing in form in the right time. I'm going with the Eagles with my first pick. And with my second pick, only because how things are going to play out, I think, in the rest of this draft, I got to go with Kansas City. And it's the Patrick Mahomes effect. And I know his ankle's hurt. And I think they're underdogs at home this week against the Texans because there's presumption that Carson Wentz is going to start. But the chief thieves defensively can still force a whole bunch of turnovers, 6 of them against the Browns. So even if the offense isn't working, and listen, you get in these snowy, nasty games, it's defensive line play. It's the ability to run the ball. Isaiah Pacheco coming back is a huge asset for them. Their ability to get to Jameis Winston on a standard rush, 3 interceptions on a standard rush, not allowing any deep balls. Andy Reid insists that Patrick Mahomes could have gone back in the game after his ankle injury and re-injury over 4 plays, but he said, quote, there was no need for that. Listen, if this were an AFC draft, I'd go Bills 1, but I'm going Chiefs 2 only because they've won it each of the last 2 years. So give me both halves of Super Bowl 57, Eagles with my first pick, Chiefs getting healthier, except that the quarterback position concerns protecting Patrick Mahomes. I know, but so much history there and such great coaching. Give me the Chiefs, who they're still 2 games up for the 1 seed.
Yeah, I think there was a real interest for me there to take the Chiefs if they'd slid to me at pick 4. Yes, with where Mahomes is, and we got Brad asking, can Carson Wentz pull a Nick Foles and win a Super Bowl to back up quarterback? And he's not going to have to.
He can beat the Texans at home, and that's probably all they need him to do. If he beats their magic number to clinch the 1 seed is 2. Any combination of 2 wins for them or 2 losses for the Bills, and or 1 and 1. Chiefs will get the 1 seed. Chiefs' schedule is home to the Texans, at the Steelers, at the Broncos. So there are no layups there, no easy buckets. But the one they need Wentz to win is this weekend, Saturday my time, Sunday yours.
Absolutely. And I think there's an immense amount of doubt around the Chiefs right now, understandably so, right? The defense hasn't been at the level it has been in previous seasons. The offensive line in that left tackle spot, that edge protection is just such a concern. Patrick Mahomes, he was beat up. He didn't get injured on a play where he was protected cleanly and stood there. He got injured because he was jumping and leaping away from pressure and got sandwiched by, enclosing pass rushes. He looks like, you watch his body language, not in a negative way, but watch the body hurt you can see coming through the TV screen, even from all the way down here. So there's understandably more concern than we have in previous seasons, but that's balanced with, look, this is the Chiefs championship pedigree. This is Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, playoff Travis Kelce. Hollywood Brown could be back this week. I've said it. I'm trying not to sound like a broken radio or whatever, but there is plenty of answers in terms of the skill position talent. Are they the Lions? No. Are they the flying Miami Dolphins when they're fully healthy with the skill position talent available? No, they don't have that. But between seasoned Travis Kelce, between two healthy running backs in Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, between a still savvy and effective DeAndre Hopkins with a Hollywood Brown back out there and Xavier Worthy giving you some spark. And we saw that with a rushing touchdown that I know a lot of Patrick Mahomes starters in fantasy playoffs were hoping that was going to be counted as a passing touchdown.
And I say we have the war, we call it the war room at ESPN, where we have all the games on, and anybody who touches the NFL is invited to watch the games there. It's great. Herm Edwards is there. Mike Tannenbaum, people you see on the Blitz. Field Yates is there. Chris Berman, the great Chris Berman's there. Field damn near broke out a protractor on the screen to try and make the case that it was a forward pass, not a lateral.
No, he was great. He broke it down on Twitter, and he also confirmed that, it had been confirmed that there would be no stat correction there. But my point is there's still enough answers there for the Chiefs to come up with. But the biggest one starts for me at left tackle, like keep him upright. Whether you have to go max protect and run 3-man route concepts the rest of the way and just go like 7-man in, and that's fine if you do. If that's what you have to, I would trust Patrick Mahomes and the veteran receivers with enough explosion from the likes of a Worthy over Hollywood Brown to be able to make that effective and giving Mahomes time enough to operate, as well as, a running back leaking out perhaps as a dump. Something creative in that sense, rather than standing there with 5-man protection concepts and watching number 15 get pillared into the ground. Okay, so this is an interesting one.
Again, my pick is predicated on the assumption that Kansas City will find a way to hold on to the 1 seed. If you tell me the Bills are the 1 and Kansas City's the 2, I probably would have gone another direction with that pick, this number 3 overall. So
Chiefs off the board. I'm very concerned about who I get coming back to me with the 6th pick, because we've done with the structure. This is go 1 because it's a big top seed. It's overweighted. 2 and 3 to Phil, back to me, and then we're just going to 1-1-1 the rest of the way. So with the 4th overall pick, my 2nd pick, I have my concerns about the injuries, particularly because they're at every single level of the defense. It's not just the defensive front. It's not just the linebacker core. It's not just the secondary.
It's 13 dudes.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of dudes. But hopefully,
and a running back out.
But what I will put some and a big running back out in David Montgomery. What I will put stock in is the quality of head coaching, the quality of the quarterback play, the rest of the surrounding weapons, and a level of intensity and competitive toughness that I think, and that maybe that's doubling up on coaching there, but that I can expect from the game preparation and game planning of this, not just from your head coach Dan Campbell there, but what you're getting from your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator, who deserves head coaching looks as well. I'll take the Lions off the board here. They'll be my NFC pick here. So I've got 1 in each side. I don't mind I don't mind heavy loading one side of this and locking up a one side of the Super Bowl or the path to the Super Bowl if I feel one side stronger. But I'm happy to take the Lions off the board here. I'm a little concerned that a team that I've got a big asterisk on, that I want it, that they're still standing there and glowing. They say the tag on the board is glowing at you. It is right now. I'm concerned they're not getting back to me at 6. But look, I understand the concerns about Lions. We've talked about them plenty over the last couple of picks. So I don't need to relitigate that. But with the strengths that still exist there, look, it might need to be 40 burgers the rest of the way. But this team is capable of that, creative enough of that. And I have a lot of faith in that coaching stuff as well to have this team prepped and primed. Hopefully they're not getting all 13 guys back, or the Baker's dozen, but enough of those contributors, if they can get Lee McNeil, is not going to be back on the field, but enough of those contributors back on the field to balance this thing out a little bit. And I give the defensive coordinator enough chess pieces to come up with a competent game plan to play into what strengths they're able to put out there, knowing that offense should be able to put them in half decent game scripts to operate, the Bills' 90-point showdown notwithstanding.
Laz, my concern with the Lions was heightened. A mate of mine who does stats for CBS, Doug Clausen, terrific follow on Twitter, by the way, if you're just looking for good contextual stat analysis. He posted that quarterbacks prior to this week who had 400 pass yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, all time, there were 16 of them. They went 16-0. Jared Goff wasn't only the first loss, he almost got to 500 yards and still lost passing. So that's like, at that level, when they're playing an elite offense, not many teams can live up to what the Bills do. But when Dan Campbell feels the pressure, a decision I disagreed with, to kick an onside kick down 10 with 12 minutes left, when you feel that pressure because you're so concerned about not making stops, that's really damning. No matter what he says in press conferences about, great opportunity for guys to step up. If that score is Packers 27, Lions 17. They're not kicking it on. Hell, if it's Packers 37, Lions 27, down 10 with 12 minutes left, you're not making that decision, even if I thought we were going to get the ball. That's my concern with Dan Campbell. And I guess I don't want to just take the floor. Master motivator, master delegator, some of the decision making in the last 2 weeks has been reckless.
And that's not the first time. People amid that craziness in that Cowboys game in 2023 with the, did you report, did you not report, talking about Dan Skipper. Part of the criticism that came in that kind of got overshadowed by the refereeing controversy is he kept going for it afterwards. He didn't actually just take the, he didn't actually just take the points and move on and continue the game. So
live by the sword,
yes,
die by the sword.
There.
The second half of that statement, that saying.
But in saying that, you said if the score was this, and but the score wasn't that, and he felt that his defense could not stop them.
But onside kicks are 2.5% proposition.
They're awful. What the NFL
and you give the other team the ball at the plus 35 if they don't return it into your own 5-yard line.
Love the sport, but the fact that you have to report the onside kick, and the fact that even though you have to report the onside kick, we can't bring back the old run-up rules just for the onside kick, even though that wasn't the high injury leverage situation that other big run-ups and running starts saw with the kickoffs that saw so much of this dramatic change over the past couple of years. It pains me and it frustrates me because I think there is a way to have that and bring that play back in there. But I hear that. There's a reason they would have been probably everybody's top 2 picks this time last week. They're not anymore. But I don't love that decision at that stage of the fourth quarter to go for that. I understand the hyper aggressive thinking. Yes, it could bite them, but hey, we're doing this in week 15. This is not a playoff situation. Are there some learnings that they can take from that? We shall see. But ideally, he's not having to chase 48 points again in the playoffs, hopefully with some of that returning talent. But it's a very well-made point. It's also why they were there on the board for me at 4 and not coming off the board in the top 2 picks like they would have 7 days ago or 3 days ago.
Laws here with the 5th overall pick, 3rd on my side. I'm split between 2.
Interesting.
The one I'm going with, and I don't know if this is your big flashing lights team, but in our preseason popular demand special, this was my long shot tip at $19, and it was a Packers Super Bowl win. And a lot of the reason that I got away from the Packers during the season this year was the Jordan Love turnover issue. Where the Packers have exceeded expectation is their ability to take the ball away. They had a terrific run of that through the beginning of the season. That kind of slowed down. That's reemerged. What's really stood out to me for Green Bay is 2 things. I'll start with Jordan Love. Gotten a little bit more responsible with those YOLO balls. No interceptions against Seattle. In fact, that was his 12th game since the start of last season with multiple touchdowns, no picks. Only Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson have more in that time. It's the same number as Brock Purdy. Most of his were a year ago. And it was about this time last year that Love, I don't know what it is, he figured it out. Over the last 8 weeks of last season, 18 touchdowns to 1 interception. Over the last 5 weeks of this season, 8 touchdowns to 1 interception. So it just gets to like mid-November, and he gets much more responsible and precise with the football. And we saw what that took Green Bay to in the playoffs last year, very nearly knocking off the 49ers in the divisional round in San Francisco. Against Seattle, it was much more short passes. I joked, I called it Love at first sight, 8 for 8 on screens, passes within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. He won 16 of 17 on passes inside of 10 yards of line of scrimmage for 134 yards and a touchdown. Highest percentage of his career on those throws. So that's one thing. I think Jordan Love, while he has the ability to beat you deep, and I mean, he's guaranteed go look at his game log. I think it's all but 2 or 3 games. He has a 40-yard completion at some point. But now the ability and willingness to check it down and take the more responsible route, move the ball upfield, trust Josh Jacobs in the backfield. As much as we're excited about Saquon Barkley in Philly and Derrick Henry in Baltimore, there's another stud running back who found greener pastures, pun intended, in the offseason in Josh Jacobs. 8 straight games with a touchdown. He's got 5 straight games over 100 scrimmage yards. So that's what I like on the offense. Defensively, they can do something which is coveted in this league, and that is get pressure on the quarterback without bringing added bodies. In this win in Seattle, by the way, 12th man, and you talk about how tough it is to play in that environment, how quiet they can get when they're on offense, how loud they get there on defense. They had Go Pack Go ringing throughout. They're bringing a lot of disruption in Seattle. They had 16 pressures in that game, which tied a season high for them. But all 7 sacks of theirs came with a standard rush. Since we started tracking those things back in 2006, no team has a higher total of sacks with the standard rush. They didn't need to bring extra bodies, 3.5 yards per drop back with the standard rush. And we've seen that in earlier games as well. They had similar numbers in their win over the Texans earlier in the year. Green Bay's now won 8 of 10. Only 2 losses in that time were to a full-strength Detroit team. If you told me a team outside the top 2 is going to make a run to the Super Bowl in the NFC, how good is your good? For me, high ceiling Packers. Their ceiling is as high as anybody not named Philadelphia or Detroit.
I had the Packers in the next couple of teams that I was looking at for sure. And the ball protection there absolutely has been a huge narrative shift from what we saw from Jordan Love in the first half of the season. And Josh Jacobs is, whilst we spent so much time of this season talking about the free agent acquisitions of a Saquon Barkley and a Derrick Henry and the ability to pay running backs, and we're seeing a resurgence in this and should be valuing it. Josh Jacobs deserves to be in that conversation as well because he got big money to go to a team that already had a well-known running back who left for another team that, who knows, maybe we'll talk about in a little bit here, and Aaron Jones going to the Minnesota Vikings. But Jacobs set the tone for that game. This was a really interesting battle going into it, considering skill position talent that existed. I know Geno Smith left this game, but coming into this game, 2 naturally aggressive, tough quarterbacks with very live arms that can stretch different parts of the field. Talented running back spot, even with Kenneth Walker not out. This was all what you wrote down on paper, and you could throw that out after the first couple of drives when the Green Bay Packers said, screw this, let's turn this around and give it to Josh Jacobs and stamp it right off the bat and put a dent in that Seahawks front right from the get-go. And dictate terms and say, right, if one of us is getting turned one-dimensional in this game, it's not going to be the Green Bay Packers. It will be the Seattle Seahawks. And like you said, they were then able to unleash a traditional but explosive pass rush that delivered hit after hit after hit. And Sam Howell, with all the pocket movement of an aging Kirk Cousins back there when he came in to deputize for Geno Smith, just getting pummeled in the pocket. Okay, with the 6th overall pick, moving on. That was not the blinking light team, although it was a team I was absolutely in consideration. I am walking down narrative street now. Mm-hmm. The pressure of the top seed will not be on this team. The pressure of a divisional title may not be on this team. They may be the wildest of wild cards, but from the AFC, I will pick presumptive all-pro, probably all-pro second team quarterback, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. I'm inviting them to my crew to Club SB LIX with my 3rd overall pick, with the 6th overall pick, or the 6th pick in total. Look, this is another team.
I love that. I'm just sorry. I love the name of the club, Club SB LIX.
Yeah, it sounds like a rocking good time. Perhaps a little raunchy, but we'll leave that.
Sticking floor at Club LIX.
Look, I think I don't know how much defense any of my contenders are playing, apparently, because the 14 points they gave up to the Giants is not going to be the task at hand for the Baltimore Ravens the rest of the way, and certainly in the playoffs. But the level of quarterback play that we're getting there, the playoff experience and the playoff pain that hangs around him and his 2 Super Bowl MVPs and the rest of that team, the rest of that franchise, the coaching staff still, it's along the Baltimore Ravens Super Bowls, under John Harbaugh or not, seem like fading memories at this point with lack of playoff success in recent years. So that has matched the individual accolades and the regular season success. Throw in Derrick Henry and the ability to translate into frosty January football and ideally February football. I'm taking a team that's doing some chasing right now. The Ravens get the Steelers this week with a chance to, after the Steelers lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, which you talked about, the very competent and complete victory we saw, particularly through the passing game and complementary defense there. The defense has been talked about plenty from the Eagles, but the Steelers outclassed there. They get the Ravens this week. They travel to the Ravens this week. Ravens get the Texans, who were probably they're like a worse version of the Ravens this year. They're not as explosive.
Worst version last year. We saw that in the divisional round.
We saw the halftime switch get flicked there. And
eyelids
then
are still numb from that game. That was the coldest field I've ever been on.
And then they close out a Browns game that who knows who's playing quarterback, because it may not be Jameis Winston for the Browns. So look, the Ravens get past the Steelers and pull level at getting to that mark, pulling level on wins and losses in the division, and get themselves to 10 wins. Meanwhile, the Steelers have the Chiefs and the Bengals to finish. So I'm feeling, I said they may be the wildest of wild cards, but if I'm looking right now at who's going to take that division title, I'm absolutely putting my support behind the Baltimore Ravens to finish with a wet sail. I mentioned, the 5 touchdowns, no interceptions from Lamar Jackson, who was so explosive early that for those that started Mark Andrews in their fantasy team, who were crowing after one quarter when he had a touchdown, a couple of catches, and that's the line he finished on, 2 catches and 2 targets on the day, because quite frankly, they didn't need to. They could pull the firepower back. So yes, it's against the Giants, but I think there's so much talk about other teams, Chiefs as 2-time defending champions, and the Bills. And then on the NFC side, we've talked about some of the big names there. But on the AFC, the Ravens are in a unique position where you've got I don't think you'll be the MVP winner, but an MVP contending quarterback, reigning MVP, an additional running element that wasn't there last year. Yes, this isn't the Baltimore Ravens defense. Well, I'm not playing much defense, it would seem, so far in this draft. But yeah, I'm happy to take the Ravens here. There's just a little, after some of the postseason shine's been well and truly knocked off them. And obviously it hasn't been the high-flying regular season with, routine wins and business trips galore, with some of the losses that they've had on their rather ridiculous-looking 2024 schedule that's been completed so far, with some of the games that they've given up against the Browns and the Raiders. Really, like, going back over it is really grim looking. It remains confusing to look at some of those performances, but their ceiling is absolutely there, and I haven't seen anything from the quarterback that suggests he's not going to be operating at that position, at that level. So give me the Ravens with the 6th pick.
Laws, it's a great pick, and I think if somebody parachuted into the NFL season, let's say they were on, I don't know, one of these like 4-month cruises that cost $50,000 that you're seeing, like Virgin round the world cruise, and they just left
the
their
Murphy
phone,
family cruise. Sure, I'm aware. Yeah,
and they just pulled up. Oh, NFL getting to the pointy end of the season. Let's check it out. I think Lamar Jackson would be getting a lot more MVP votes than has happened. It's a narrative award. Josh Allen, a deserving winner. Don't get me wrong. Lamar Jackson's stats are superior. More touchdowns, fewer picks, more yards per attempt, more rushing yards per attempt. Josh Allen benefits from a lot of tush pushes and design runs inside the 5-yard line. He has 11 rushing touchdowns to Jackson's 3. But Lamar Jackson is putting up levels of quarterback play, just gross, just total yardage at a level of efficiency that's just best of his career. So it's kind of the same, like you said, kind of the same conversation as the Lions, except Baltimore just all season they've been Lions decimated with injury. For the Ravens, it's just high ceiling, low floor all year. I mean, they put it on the Broncos, a quality team, a decent team, a wild card team, not going to be in the Super Bowl conversation, but that game was never competitive against the Ravens, 41-10, and it was just scary how good the Ravens looked. And then you mentioned the Raiders have 2 wins on the year. The Browns have 3 wins on the year, and the Ravens lost them both. So it was refreshing to see them go against an inferior opponent and not play down to the level. 17 pressures. You talked the Michelle Pfeiffer. I called it the Jackson 5. It was as easy as ABC for Lamar Jackson moving the ball through the air against the Lions. He was comfortable in the pocket, and that offensive line, larger than any offensive line we've seen, being able to put games away with Derrick Henry, unlike anybody else. You would think that they keep blowing fourth quarter leads, just weirdly. But my pick, Laz, I have a hard time getting away from an NFC team with this next one. It was a team I just saw in person yesterday, and a team that, if they win out, they'll be no worse than the 2 seed in the NFC. And if Philly falters at all, this team has a route to the 1 seed. Lizzo's new man on the Minnesota Vikings. Me. I'm on the Minnesota Vikings, Laz. I'm picking them. And it's a few things. Play action game of Sam Darnold, very impressive. Kevin O'Connell's gotten the most out of Sam Darnold, but 11 touchdowns on play action passes. Only Jared Goff has more this season. And that two-headed running back and all that Ben Johnson likes to do with pre-snap motion and play action. And this defense, I mean, they've been called for years the Purple People Eaters. They were the White Walkers yesterday, all white, 14 straight games of the turnover. That's the longest streak in the NFL currently, because they've done it in every game this season. 42% pressure rate yesterday. They just fly around defensively. And, man, if they can find a way to make teams come into Minnesota, there's normally this, like, trade-off. Pretty stadiums, SoFi, Jerry's World, Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, they become like corporate and they're just filled with road teams. Or you get like kind of the ugly old stadiums, all due respect, Arrowhead, Lambeau, when the Bears defense is good, Soldier Field, the Link, that it's just a tough place to win, but it's kind of this like ugly, gritty old stadium. US Bank is a stunning, stunning building, a piece of architecture. And it's menacing, man. It's a tough place to go win. They balance that out amazingly well. And when, things got going for the Vikings, big third downs, it's deafening in there. So a team that didn't think they'd be anywhere near the playoffs, they're not my first choice, but I feel like I have kind of the non-Lions NFC market cornered with this pick. My penultimate pick, I'm adding I'm adding an invitation to the Minnesota Vikings, and maybe we'll get some Prince on the playlist to entice him a little bit at Club SB LIX.
Yeah, that would have been the team that came off the board for me next. Yes, the Sam Darnold narrative is going to be there, but Darnold continues to deliver some truly sensational darts from the quarter from the pocket. It's highly enjoyable to see him thread needles week in, week out, with a decreasing amount of panic and a decreasing amount of the regression. That I think every week that we go on, yes, we'll get to the playoffs, but every week that we go on, the fear of that regression diminishes. And the talk and the articles we have on Kevin Seifert up on ESPN.com right now, who covers the NFL and the Vikings, about Sam Darnold's future prospects and the likelihood of him getting paid. So they were the next one for me. That was my chance to play a little defense with that aggressive Minnesota scheme. That chance is going to go by the wayside largely. I'm going to have a little pass rush with my next pick. I am going to go to the NFC side of things, and I'm going to go for the new leaders in the NFC West and a team that has the chance to show, despite whatever happened.
Scary team, man.
Despite whatever happened down in Jacksonville with the Jets, I'm going with a team that's going to be able to show Aaron Rodgers what aging gracefully at the quarterback position really looks like, and that's the LA Rams. Matthew Stafford. This was not a sling-about affair on Thursday Night Football. I think I had big tickets on this being a really interesting NFC West showdown, and look, it was close. I'm not going to say it was a barn burner by any stretch of the imagination, but look, we've touched on it in recent weeks, some of the trends we saw with the LA Rams, what we wanted to see with them turning up the passing volume, the play action volume. What we've also seen from a defensive pass rush, that if they can be put in good game scripts, they can really tee off with the talent they have up front there. That rookie class is something I know Rams fans and the Rams front office should be proud of, and the Rams fans are absolutely stoked with some of the talent they've seen come on board and energize that pass rush over the last couple of years. So give me the LA Rams here, who have known strengths. They have inconsistency, that's for sure. They have a weakness in the secondary. They're not going to overwhelm you with their defense, but we know what they can do well. We know that they have a truly explosive passing attack that can test even the best secondaries in the NFL. We know that they have running back talent, the ability to turn around and hand to a workhorse in Kyren Williams and give him 30 touches. Blake Corum waiting in the wings for more opportunities. And then, so I think the rest of the way, there's divisional opponents for the Rams the rest of the way. But before that, in the early slate coming up, on the 23rd of December, Australian time, they do get the Jets, a road trip to New York, which needs to be a victory, should be a victory, needs to be a victory. And then the Cardinals and Seahawks to close, that would take care of that. And you are absolutely stamping your passes, the NFC West champions. You're stamping you're standing there with the red velvet rope in front of the door, not the red velvet door, the red velvet rope in front of the door. You're standing there looking out on the crowd, looking out the queue building up. And then you see that the old dog's come walking on. He's in his 30s. He's not routinely clubbing these days, but he's clearly out on a good night. Maybe they're celebrating something.
Had a good time in the club before.
Maybe,
club,
maybe had a lovely 18 holes of golf, a couple at the 19th hole, a really good meal, looked around at the group and said, you know what? Look, you know what? We've got the babysitter tonight. Maybe we'll just grab this crew. It's good vibes. The camaraderie is truly on point. We've got a great balance amongst this crew. Let's go on. Maybe we've got a few young faces, a couple of young lads, young people in the crew that we want to show that we've still got a little hustle left in us. Out we go for the night. You open the red velvet rope. Say, come on in. Come on, fellas. We know you know how to handle yourselves in there. Go on in. See if you can have yourself a good time. So that's the LA Rams for me. With my fourth pick. Rarely I have this much balance. Usually I do swing a little to one conference or the other, but so far sitting here at 2-2. And there's absolutely zero balance, I should say, in the talents of my team. I am offensive heavy, to say the least.
Oh, boy, Laz. This is my last pick. You have one after me, yeah?
Yeah, this is where it got tough.
There's a step down, frankly, here. And we have our power rankings on the screen, and we're not drafting by the power rankings because it's one thing to say body of work plus trajectory, which are the power rankings. And it's another to project forward and say body of work, trajectory, and what's the likelihood of this team winning for, if you're a 1 seed, 3 consecutive playoff games, many of them having to go on the road to do it. There are 2 I'm looking at. I don't like either. So I will go with, both coaches are good. I'll go with the superior coach, I think, and I will take, let's ride Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin, that ship he runs, I'm done doubting him. I've been done doubting him. My own vested interest, popular demand moments, even the ones we haven't talked about. When in doubt, go with Mike Tomlin. Tends to go well. They've been underdog 6 times this season. They've won 5. The loss to the Eagles was the first. And that's what they would be in the playoffs repeatedly. If they win the division and say they beat the Ravens this week and it's 3-6 Ravens going into Pittsburgh, Ravens are probably going to be favored in that game. People just doubt the personnel in the Steelers, and I get it. But Mike Tomlin, better than any coach, just gets the most out of his men. George Pickens being injured doesn't help. I don't know his status for this weekend. I assume his status will be fine for January. But no matter the AFC opponent, Pittsburgh has an avenue. A lot of that is contingent on TJ Watt raising hell, which he can do. Joey Porter Jr. not getting flagged, which is possible. So it's not a strong argument because I still think there's limits at the quarterback position. The moon ball works if George Pickens is on the field. If not, doesn't have a lot of teeth. And we saw the Steelers' inability to stop an advertised Eagles run game over the last, 10.5 minutes. That's not a defense that is known for getting bullied. 21 plays, 10 minutes, 29 seconds, Philly ran off the clock to close out the game against the Steelers. Blitz, that was the game we followed for Blitz. We were trending to be like 20 minutes heavy, and then we were on time because that just kept getting faster and faster as they just ran the ball down the field. But that said, against familiar opponents in the AFC, if the Steelers' road is, say, Broncos, in Buffalo, in Kansas City, if there's one team that can traverse that, if there's one coach who can lead a team to traverse that, it's Mike Tomlin. So, Mr. Tomlin, here's your black and gold invitation to Club LIX.
All right, I'm going to go with good coaching here as well. I'm going to go with some good defense as well. And really, that could have spoken to the 2 teams I was tossing up here. Those 2 teams are actually playing each other to start Week 16 on Thursday Night Football. Your beloved Broncos and Jim Harbaugh's Los Angeles Chargers, who delivered one of the best third quarters of the season against the Chiefs with those 2 just dominant, physical, and yet still explosive drives to put that contest well back into the mix after being outclassed in the first half, 14-0 in that third quarter, and did the exact opposite. Opposite in against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where they go in with it an advantage and give up 17 points in the third quarter and completely put up a goose egg themselves and disappear. So a very wonky half, as you and me were talking about before we came on the air, a very wonky half against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That Jim Harbaugh defense giving up 40 points, a 40-burger, was not even against a resilient and motivated Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense in motivation for the playoffs, motivation for success, motivation for Baker Mayfield showing that contract was worth it, that he can overcome whatever losses you throw at him personnel-wise, motivation for Mike Evans to make it 11 straight seasons with 1,000 yards. He's currently at 740 now with 3 weeks.
Which is remarkable because he missed, what, 4 games?
He was out for an age, and he still has a chance. I'd say better than likely chance that he picks up 251 yards over the next 3 weeks. And let's just say in Tampa Bay, we've heard it was a previous quarterback and a previous future Hall of Famer that said it, Gronk and Brady. But we know that in that building, they've been aware of landmarks that needed to be hit in the final couple of weeks, making sure a couple of receptions, maybe a touchdown was had by certain players for certain reasons. And this is as good a reason as any because he has never failed to hit 1,000 yards on a season, Mike Evans. It's been a perfect 10 for 10. He's in line to make it 11 for 11. Anyway, I'm not talking about the Bucs, I'm talking about the Chargers. I'm going to lean back into some defense. I'm going to believe that was a wonky second half there. They have a really interesting get-right run home. Actually, kind of similar to what we talked about with the Baltimore Ravens. They have the fierce divisional matchup this week. Chargers, Broncos, playoff implications, seeding, spots within the NFC West, all that fun stuff within the division. That's all there for them. And then they get the Patriots and the Raiders to close, which is a pretty cozy way. Talk about coaching advantage that Jim Harbaugh would have with some of the questions that have arisen both in Las Vegas and over there in the merry parts of New England. So close to your home, Philip. I think that this is a team, we've talked about it through this year. They were our Lynx golf pick when we were making the halfway turn, built for frosty conditions. It's all likelihood that they're with where they're sitting. Well, if they get in, they're going on the road. We know that. They're not chasing down a top seed in that division. That's already been locked away and sealed for the Kansas City Chiefs. So they're going to have to go on the road if they find themselves in frosty conditions. I believe they have the ability to play that hard style football, even with the injury to J.K. Dobbins. But I'm going to give Jim Harbaugh the credit and say that was a bad half of football that has cast some doubt in Week 15. I think we see. I like this team playing their type of football on a short week when we do tend to see points. It's been a great Thursday night football slate this season in 2024. Last week was perhaps a little return to what we've known in previous seasons.
Yeah.
We see the scoring comes down. The over-under in that game, we're going to touch on that a bit. Not a high number. The Broncos, also a very good defense. But I'm going to lean towards the Chargers. I was tossing up between there. And the reason I am, amongst all other things, is that the difference here is the ceiling of the quarterback. Justin Herbert, if he needs to, can turn it on. He's not surrounded with the most ridiculous amount of talent, despite a couple of touchdowns for Quentin Johnston. Lad McConkey's a bit banged up. Mentioned the run game's still well designed, good offensive line, but J.K. Dobbins, their best running back, not on the team, not healthy at the moment. So I still think, though, if they get pressed into that situation where you need those high leverage 3rd and 13 lasers into a ridiculous tight window that only the absolute S tier of quarterbacks can deliver, that Justin Herbert is in that quality realm. So that's why I'm going to take the Chargers with my last pick. A little bit of defense with still some quarterback upside and a hell of a head coach.
Had to have some measure of defense, Laws. So teams we left completely untouched. No representatives from the NFC South, no representatives from the only AFC South team that's going to be in the playoffs is the Texans, unless the Colts win out. And I think the Chargers would need to lose 2 of their last 3. So, yeah, I mean, the probably the best teams left out, Bucs and Broncos, Texans, those are the 3 that are...
I'm sure we'll hear from Commanders fans who would... What are you talking
Commanders
about?
as well. Didn't mean to... Commanders as well. They are waiting in the queue at Club LIX, but we have clamped shut the velvet rope. And the velvet door.
That too.
And the velvet lock. And the velvet invitations to Club LIX. Okay, Laws, it's time to shut the velvet door and pick up the phone. It is our Hot Take Hotline, brought to you by Macca's. Laws, we have some spicy ones in this order right off the top.
Yeah, this was one where I wanted to throw out, I wanted your hottest Christmas wishes, or holiday wishes. Let's open it up. This is a time of year where many teams are looking towards 2025, the next season, the off season, and hoping for something to occur in this holiday period to give them that renewed spark of hope going into free agency, maybe head coaching decisions, the draft, and what lies ahead for the season. So I threw that out. That was the premise. And first one I got here from Danny Mack was Micah Parsons on the Packers in 2025 would certainly be a Christmas miracle. Look, I guess there's a bit of talk here around. There was some reporting that, the future of Micah Parsons and possible trades was up in the air after that victory, or in and around that victory over the Carolina Panthers. Jerry Jones, or the Jones family, speaking on the radio, as they do so frequently, in Dallas, I believe it's 105.3 The Fan, saying, no, can't envisage a future. We haven't had those conversations in the building. We haven't even had the conversation where the idea that Micah Parsons' future was not with Dallas, all that kind of stuff. It's a bit of paraphrasing there, but you get the idea. Micah Parsons on the Packers.
He didn't say R&R.
Look, thank you. Thanks for that, Phil. Look, no, I don't think you're getting Parsons. Look, if Micah Parsons got traded, would it surprise me? Yes, because he's that big a star, and Jerry doesn't like to see that big a star exit the building. People like Randy Gregory getting out of the building. People like Amari Cooper getting out of the building. That's happened. DeMarcus Ware at the very end of his career, that was a financial move. No, I think Micah Parsons will be there. I think the level of intensity with which he's played since getting back on the field in a losing season. There was obviously narrative in the offseason about people having questions within the building, not saying wasn't elevated to the Jones level, but people who work within the building, within the football operation, having questions about Micah Parsons and his future and whether you wanted to pay that player. I think the intensity that he's played with, the effectiveness on a per rush basis, it's still absolutely undeniable. So I think, no, he's not going to be a Green Bay Packer. I also think the Packers aren't really the team to do that. I know the Packers are more aggressive in free agency and more balanced up than they only draft and develop philosophy that we've seen in the past. But I can't see them giving up in my mind, to get Micah Parsons, it should be 3 first-round picks. I know that the cost for those moves has kind of gone down. It'd probably be 2 first-round picks. I still don't see the Packers as the type of team that would give up that type of capital for Parsons or anyone like that, a Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, anyone like that. Also, the Packers pass rushers, as we just saw, and they don't get the Seahawks offensive line every week, but as we saw, no lack of potency there.
Yeah, and credit to Jeff Hafley, the first-year defensive coordinator, switching 3-4-4-3, coming in and having no problems putting in a system that forces turnovers and creates sacks. Laz, Parsons club option this year, unrestricted free agent next, yeah?
Yeah, Micah Parsons still under contract, under contract control.
Which means they would need to extend him this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, he's been eligible for an extension already, but with the way
they drag their feet.
Yeah, with the way the Cowboys like to drag their toes like Keenan Allen on the sideline. Nice in that scenario, not nice in this scenario where it completely scuttles your ability to be reactive and flexible. Proactive in free agency. And Phil, it's the holidays. I'm not going to be talking about this team right now, so let's leave that where it is.
It's less about him and it's more about the wish list of if Parsons isn't seeing the number and requests
he's also. But the reason why you would want to extend him, the reason why you do want to extend his plays, he's on a hard and fast $24 million cap hit next year with there's no maneuverability of that with the way it stands right now. This is why you do get ahead of things. All right, let's move on to the next one coming in here. And there was a nice level of Christmas spice here. This was not the family-friendly eggnog, as I know you love over there. Your people love over there. The Americans love their eggnog, as in the Americans. Yeah. It's not as big in Australia because it was 37 degrees Celsius here. What's that, near 100? Yeah. It
was unseasonably
warmed up custard with cinnamon and nutmeg in 100 Fahrenheit or 37 Celsius. It was 40 odd down in Melbourne. Shout out to our friends down in Melbourne. We've had some lovely conversations with our Melbourne office of late over the ESPN Top 25 rankings. You should go check that out. The Top 25 Aussie athlete power rankings that we had out. Okay, Spice. In 2025, Jaden Daniels will cement himself as a top 5 QB in the NFL from Chad Ryan. Phil, is that mathin' for you?
No.
No, it's not me either. Sorry, Chad.
And it's Listen, this league has a really good way of adjusting. Look at C.J. Stroud last season, how great he was as a rookie. Ran away with Rookie of the Year with greater margin than Jaden Daniels is likely to win this year's honor. And he's not regressed to an average quarterback, but the league makes you work once they have a whole offseason worth of tape. And funny enough, when the Saints played the Rams a couple weeks ago, they had a ton of success blitzing Matthew Stafford, and they just didn't do it that often. And he picked them apart. They lost, and Saints lost the game. It was the same thing in this Commanders game, in which the Saints trailed 17-0. It was really curious, their decisions to bring pressure versus not. When they brought pressure, when they blitzed Jaden Daniels, they only did it 5 times, but he went 1 for 3 for 6 yards and a couple sacks. And then for the rest of the game, they didn't pressure him, and Daniels was pretty comfortable. Saints still almost came from behind with a little assist from the officials. No, I think Jaden Daniels has proven himself as an NFL lifer. I do think year 2 is going to be tough for him. But what will help him is the Commanders are toward the very top of the league in cap space. It's Patriots, Raiders, Cardinals, in that really teams with like 8-9 figures to spend. Yeah. And then that very next tier, it's like Commanders, Bears, Vikings are in there. Teams that can really make a splash. The Commanders, they need corner help, they need offensive line help, and they need wide receiver help. And they still have 3 picks in the top 100. Marshawn Lattimore comes in, ticks one of the boxes at cornerback. This team is going to be a lot better. It wouldn't surprise me if they end up catching Philly for the NFC East. Has, again, no repeat champs in 20 years. Not a bad idea to tip the Commanders to win the East. But I think it's going to be kind of a C.J. Stroud arc for Jaden Daniels, in that he just, year 2 doesn't quite meet year 1, but because he's a smart, adaptable, talented player, year 3, year 4, I'll talk to you. I just think next year, top 5 is too lofty.
Absolutely. I think there's also a locked in 4 for me. And I know things can change, but there's a 4 that you're not cracking at the top, right? Josh Allen, presumptive MVP. Yeah. Lamar Jackson will probably be an all-pro.
Mahomes.
Joe Burrow, who, if he had a winning record, would absolutely be in the MVP conversation with bona fide. And Patrick Mahomes, who, whilst having a lower tier season, is still Patrick freaking Mahomes.
Yeah.
There's your 4. So you're saying he's taking that 5th spot when you have, like, just running through it, when you have players like Justin Herbert out there, when you have the likes of Jalen Hurts out there, Jared Goff with how he's played. CJ Stroud has been a step back this year. We shall see how that responds down the stretch here, perhaps into the playoffs. We'll see what's on there. Dak Prescott was not good this year. He's not top 4 or 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. He's not healthy either. Yeah. But as you work your way through this, Kyler Murray has had some fantastic moments this season. Look,
Tua.
Sam Darnold, Jordan Love. By the way, he's played football lately. Sam Darnold.
He might be my pick.
That's more the competition that Jaden Daniels is in than cracking bona fide top 5. So shout out to Baker Mayfield as well. So yeah, he's in that. Are you in the top 10? Much like he was. I don't think much has changed, Phil, since we had our quarterback draft in regards to Jaden Daniels and his positioning in here. He's incredibly promising. I should also say that Jaden Daniels is in a competition to be the most impressive rookie quarterback from his own class. When you consider what Bo Nix has done, and when you consider what Drake May has done, who, when given the opportunity with whatever is going on in the forgotten land of New England right now, is incredibly impressive with no weaponry, no protection, and very questionable, shall we say, game planning surrounding him. So, yeah, sorry, that's a little too hot for me. Let's move it on because we are running long. So let's keep it moving. My hot take.
Draft always run long. We trade picks. It happens.
We do. It happens. This one from friend of the show, Brad. Hot take: by the end of next season, Josh Allen will be in the conversation for top 5 QB. We just had a top 5 QB question, Brad, of all time, when he wins his 2nd consecutive MVP to go with his Super Bowl MVP. Okay, let's just put for me, I'm just going to put the predictive side down for a second. If Josh Allen was to win this Super Bowl and win Super Bowl MVP, and then do it again next year, is it enough to put him in the conversation immediately of top 5 QBs of all time? No.
Well, just do what you just did for the QBs this year, in whatever order you want. Brady, Manning, Mahomes would still have a superior CV.
Montana,
Montana, Breeze, Elway.
I mean, Unitas,
Well,
Elway.
Yeah, it's once you start going Unitas, it's not quite apples to apples, but
fair. Okay. I mean, you can. Yeah. So I guess if I can't do Unitas, then I can't do.
The question is, there's one Super Bowl MVP, which is just quarterback of the winning Super Bowl team. That's how the award goes. And back-to-back league MVPs. Is that enough to put you in over a Favre, Rodgers, even
Steve Young?
Yeah, I would say no, but we just added Rodgers. I think Rodgers definitively would still have a superior CV.
Yep. So no, it's a great take. I think even at the highest level, if it was back-to-back Super Bowls with back-to-back MVP seasons, even then, you can't put the cumulative work that he's had over some of those over 5 of those names that we've put out there. I don't want to go back to Staubach and Terry Bradshaw.
Y.A. Tittle.
Otto Graham. We don't want to go that far back. But would it put him? It would be an earthquake-shaking impact on the landscape of the NFL. It would shake what we know about Joe Burrow and to a degree Patrick Mahomes. Although Patrick Mahomes would still have more silverware than him, even with those accomplishments.
Well, but it instantly stiff arms Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow.
Yes.
Instantly.
Yes. Hugely. It's a great
take.
That's
the big thing on Lamar Jackson. The regular season doesn't quite translate to the playoffs. For Josh Allen, he's been excellent in the playoffs. His defense has let him down.
Yes.
And they've had great teams, probably teams that are on par with this year's teams as good as they've looked. Allen's playing his best football to date. But yeah, the predictive element too, you're asking 3 very big dominoes to fall.
All right.
I guess 2. He's likely to win MVP this year.
He's very likely to win MVP this season. Okay. Speaking of dominoes to fall, the last one we have here, the 2025 offseason for the Cowboys will be worse than 2024 from Adam Schultz, who I asked, in what world is that a gift? Dude, because I know Adam does content.
If you bear it for the Eagles, I mean,
Adam does content surrounding the Cowboys. He said football gods have a cruel sense of humor. Was his response to that? Look, the Cowboys are already laying the groundwork for an inactive offseason again, despite the horrific results. Talking about, it's going to be a pinch again, and there's just there's cap implications when you create salary cap room by converting bonuses and stuff, despite the fact that all stats point otherwise. I mean, Jeff Kavanaugh, who's a radio host and a content creator, really sharp guy in the Dallas area, posted out this morning that, the Eagles have a flood more high-end $10 million annual average value or salary players on their team. They have more dead cap than the Dallas Cowboys, and they are still aggressive and proactive in how they go about adding talent. In saying that, the Cowboys, the brass, the Joneses, are already laying the groundwork for another offseason of inactivity. They're going to threaten the best thing they do, which is draft talent by forcing the draft to have to go to certain positions, which is the swiftest way to make sure you're not drafting the best possible players, by forcing positions into picks rather than picking
you could also trade a 4th-round pick for a guy who has 14 catches.
Yes, you certainly can. You could also trade a 4th-round pick for a 3rd-string developmental QB that you don't actually want to see, despite your franchise quarterback being lost for the season. You could trade a 1,200-yard-a-year receiver for a 5th-round pick, only to see him return better value than that as he gets closer to the age of 30. You can do all sorts of things. So that's happening. They're also laying the groundwork to bring back Mike McCarthy. You're starting to hear that noise bubbling up even more, which again, look, I've just got this for Dallas Cowboys fans out there that are seeing this very dark and tongue-in-cheek comment from and submission from Adam, which we appreciate greatly because it matches the dark tongue-in-cheek sense of humor of us. Look, over the next 5 months as you go into the offseason, whether it's a head coaching move, whether it's free agency, or as we get closer to the draft, take up golf. Take up knitting, learn how to cook better food, work on your low and slow technique, become a grill master, spend time with your family, spend time with your kids if you've got them. Go swimming. Swimming's great. It's hot in Australia. Every time. This is something that gets said way too often in my family, my step family as well. You never regret a swim. Swimming is a lovely thing to do instead of doom scrolling and getting enraged by whatever the Dallas Cowboys are sending your way this off season, which does start to smell incredibly like the mediocrity and futility of the 2024 off season. Go take up any number of one of those things. They'll probably cost you the same amount of money. They'll cause you less stress. They'll be more wholesome. And you know what? Give yourself the chance to step away and recoup and come back to getting riled up and angry closer to the season proper. Still consume positive content. Follow the league. Follow NFL. Follow fantasy football stuff. Get on ESPN on all our platforms. Take in all that content. But when it pertains to that particular team, this is my warning. I think Adam's right. I think it's an accurate hot take. More of this nonsense is coming from that team in Dallas that cannot get ahead of the ball, that is reactive instead of proactive, that has a football philosophy that is as dated and as foul-smelling as milk that was left outside yesterday in that 37-degree heat in Sydney, or on Monday or Tuesday on the 41-degree heat in Melbourne. So give yourself a breather. Still follow the game. Don't follow that team as much for the next little bit and take up a nice, wholesome hobby. Get yourself feeling positive and nice going into 2025, not stuck on a blog post, as valid as it might be, listing the 15 reasons why bringing Mike McCarthy back and sitting out free agency doomed the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, Laz, if it's any consolation, here's the gift. Cowboys 2025 offseason, you'll have some company. The Browns are they're $80 million the wrong way on the backside. Seattle's going to have a very painful offseason. Oh, sorry, the Saints are the ones who are $80 million the wrong way. The Browns are underwater as well, and the Seahawks are going to have some tough decisions to make too. So those teams all project to regress, and only one of them has any margin to recede and still be watchable is the Seahawks. So, the Cowboys at least have some dollars to play with, whether or not they waste them. I mean, it's Jerry Jones' way. Remember, they draft Troy Aikman. At the beginning of Jerry Jones's tenure, you get Troy Aikman #1 overall. Great. Had a miserable rookie season. If you watch the Monday night game, he mentioned that. And he said how he talked to Caleb Williams to give him encouragement. You're going to be great in this league. My rookie season went blah, blah, blah. And I'm very proud of my career. You'll be great. Just encouraging him. Cowboys draft Troy Aikman #1. First thing Jerry Jones does is use a supplemental pick to get another quarterback and forfeit the #1 overall pick in the next draft. That was his welcome to the NFL. So that's the man that's been at the helm. It's a minor miracle they won the early 90s Super Bowls, a perfect confluence of talent early that they have mismanaged for 3 decades since, and it shows no sign of changing. Happy holidays.
Yeah, thanks to the Minnesota Vikings for that and the great trade for Herschel Walker.
All right, well, this has been the NFL Brekkie Show for Week 15. Thank you guys so much for joining us, bearing with us. We will post our Super Bowl picks. Again, history on Laurie's side in that competition, us tipping who are we inviting to Super Bowl LIX, or no, Club SB LIX, and in what order they are getting our invitations. But for now, thanks for hanging out with us for, 79 minutes. We will see you again soon.